Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series. I'll be joining you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for the Raw Reaction Show. Well, I'll be going into some more in-depth stuff about today's game, but getting home from as enjoyable a fixture as today, I thought that I'd sit down and see if I could get a couple of Arsenal fans to come on and chat about Arsenal with me, and I've succeeded. So you've got a show this evening. Let's introduce my guest to you today. First of all, it's Umar. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good, TC. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. How was shift today? Covering things. Happy days.
You were speaking of fair, and it's one of the most calmest of shifts I've ever done. To be fair, relaxed, composed, but yeah, fantastic. Another 3 points, 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League table. Happy days.
Yeah, no complaints at all. And we're also joined very happily by Raf. How you doing, Raf? You good, Joel?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Enjoyable weekend, to be fair. So can't complain at all.
Yeah, very enjoyable indeed. We've witnessed Liverpool lose to the mighty Bournemouth. You know, that side that apparently it's not a big deal beating them.
Yeah.
Only for them to go and knock out Liverpool with a 1-0 win. Obviously, the other results like Chelsea, Spurs, we didn't necessarily enjoy. Man City as well getting a victory, but today Man United dropping more points in the league, seeing Casemiro sent off, suspended for 4 games because of course that's his second yellow card, red card rather. And I think he's closing in on a 2-match suspension for yellow cards as well. So you know, it's he might have missed more games through suspension than he manages to play this season. We'll have to wait and see. But that's title challengers Man United. It's apparently still challenging for the title. Anyway, Umar, talk to me. How are you feeling after today's win?
This team, TC, it's an incredible team. Honestly, like yesterday, Manchester City, they picked up a 1-0 win. I thought, in my eyes, it was a lucky win. I think it was petering down to a 0-0, if I'm honest. When Elise makes that mistake, you just have your hands in your head thinking, what have you done? Like, there's 15 minutes left of the game. It's a challenge where he shouldn't really be going for it in the penalty area. And Manchester City have an opportunity and they take it with the penalty kick from Erling Haaland. However, everyone then talks about the pressure being on Arsenal. And yeah, the pressure will be on Arsenal because they have to react, they have to respond, and they have to pick up 3 points in this Premier League title race. However, time and time again this season, when it's been tough moments through adversity, they bounce back. They prove time and time again that this is a top team. This 26, 27 games we played this season, there's a reason why Arsenal are top of the Premier League table. There's a reason why Manchester City are 5 points behind. There's a reason why Manchester United are 16 points behind. I've lost count, to be honest, in terms of Manchester United. But this Arsenal team, there was nervousness because this is that sort of tie where it's a banana skin of a tie, where you're thinking Fulham this season, they've been fantastic. They're going for a European spot. They're playing very good football under Marco Silva. They've got talent amongst the team with the likes of Mitrovic, Solomon, and they can be a handful to Arsenal. However, Arsenal, they performed like champions in this game. There was swagger. There was a calmness in terms of their performance. They thought to themselves, if Manchester City won 1-0 last night against Palace, we'll go one better. We'll dominate this Fulham team and we'll put them to the sword in 45 minutes. And they've done that. On another day, if we're brutally honest, it could be 6-7-0. But you don't want to be too harsh in terms of criticism because they've essentially won the game in 45 minutes. And that's what I wanted. Like, it's all good and well scoring 96-minute goal winners, 97-minute winners. But as an Arsenal fan, I know it's not good for my heart. If I'm honest, I can't take too much of it. And Mikel Arteta, without doubt, would have been saying to his players, we need to be more defensively solid. We need to be resolute and we need to stop conceding chances and opportunities. And we need to start having control of games. And they've done that against Fulham. 45 minutes, the game's done. Second half, you can reserve energy. You can take off the likes of Bukayo Saka, give him a breather. You can bring on the likes of Gabriel Jesus, who I'm sure we'll touch on in a bit. But yeah, a perfect afternoon at Craven Cottage. Arsenal proving once again that they're not going anywhere in this Premier League title race. And if Arsenal fans are still pessimistic, still not believing that we can win this Premier League title. You know, TC, I've said how many months ago did I say we could win it? And we can, and I believe we will win it. But let's see what happens in the next few months.
After Crystal Palace 2-0, I think that you said we're going to win the league.
Probably.
He was overconfident, but it's certainly ringing true this season. Raf, before I go into the finer details, just to get your broad thoughts on today's win.
Yeah, similar to Umar, I thought it was going to be a tough game. I thought coming back from an away game in the Europa League, obviously we didn't know Trossard and Gabriel Jesus were going to be fit. I know we'll probably talk about them, but there was a lot of things that were looking at this and thinking this is going to be a tricky game. Maybe win it 2-1. It's a game potentially we could draw. Obviously, pressure was on us because of the result at City, but I thought that we approached the game just ruthlessly, very efficiently, and I felt like this was a game after a while where we were back to kind of the early season where we was just completely just dominating teams, and it was a really good result at a good ground. So I was really impressed by our performance, especially in the first half. It's probably it's up there with one of the best halves of football that we've played this season. So I was I was pleasantly surprised just because I thought there would be a little bit of a hangover from the Europa League game, and I just think we acquitted ourselves really well.
Yeah, we really did. It was a great start. We were in the mix zone after the game with Charles Watson, Simon Collins, and I would tell you who we spoke to because it will come out tomorrow around midday. But Charles brought up the statistic that we've won away from home in 5 of the 6 derbies without conceding. That's a mad stat. Like if you think about especially Arsenal's away form and in big games as well, you know, you consider Chelsea and Spurs in that, and our record I know is good at Chelsea, but Spurs, Umar, terrible. And you mentioned about the fact that our defensive record's not been good. Do you think that aside from all the positives of the goals that we scored and the attacking flair that we showed, actually keeping a clean sheet was one of the most important things we could have done today?
Yeah, without doubt. Because Fulham are a team at home. They're a team that can attack. The fact that Saliba and Gabriel kept Mitrovic quiet, I thought for most of that game, apart from a few sniffs here and there, I thought he was quiet. I think it's a big, big testament because in the reverse fixture at the Emirates, he caused us problems. But I think in this game, we learned upon that. I think Gabriel and Saliba together in the heart of defense were fantastic. I thought Ben White had a very good game. He was bombing up and down that right-hand side. I think the fact that he's putting balls into the box, I think the final end product, I think he's improved a lot in recent weeks. Zinchenko, again, a great performance. But I go back to the 91st minute when I think Fulham have an opportunity and Gabriel blocks it. And in the back of their minds, I think they know about that records, in the London Derby records, but he celebrates that block as if he scored another goal. And apart from the fact that he's put the ball in the back of the net, he's had a very good performance. This player loves defending and he's a leader. He's a great character to have in and around the dressing room. And I'm still shocked that Brazil don't call him up to their national team. But on the flip side, I don't mind. If he's fresh for these remainder of these 10, 11 games of the Premier League campaign, if he's firing, I'm more than confident and I'm more than sure he'll get opportunities for his national team because for me, he's been up there, if not the best defender in the Premier League this season.
Yeah, it's a great point about Brazil, actually, because, obviously Gabriel Jesus is only coming back into the fold. And this is the only international break this year before the season finishes. So Gabriel, Jesus, they're not going to be going off to Brazil, so don't have to worry about anything to do with them. I'd imagine we're going to lose, obviously, some other players, like Zinchenko and, White, I'd expect probably to go as well. And Saliba, you'd expect to get called up to France again. Ramsdale, of course. Partey, we know, has been called up by Ghana. Ødegaard with Norway, Saka, Trossard, Martin. I don't know. Martinelli been called up? I don't think he has he? No, he hasn't. So that's another one that won't be going away. So it's really good news in that sense, and there will be some rest and recovery used during that period for those players. Let's talk about some specifics then. Raf, I think there's only one place to start. He's in the thumbnail of today's video. Leandro Trossard's the assist king, as we need to now call him. 5 assists in 5 starts for us so far. Mudryk celebrated like he scored a goal yesterday when he got his assist. And a guy that's cost a third of his price has got 5 times as many of those as he has in the same amount of time. Less time, actually, for his new club. So what have you made of our little Belgian brilliance?
I mean, yeah, there's not many. I don't know. There's not many words I can use to describe him. To be honest, well, there's loads, but I can't put my finger on it. I think he's been brilliant. Like I think if you look at his,
it's a good start. Of words, to be fair,
yeah. I go brilliant. Brilliant's a good start. Mesmeric, amazing. I think.
Well, we're getting high levels of vocab here.
I know. I had to drop them in. I think the way that he's adapted to the way that we play, I think, is probably the biggest thing that I can say to him. I think he's played in 3 different positions since he's been at the club. Well, you could say 2 mainly on the left and on the and centrally, but I think he also had a little stint on the right in one of the games as well. I think his play, his touches, his interlinking with Ødegaard and Martinelli at times. I think just his general work rate as well, and his decision making, especially in the final third, is exemplary. Like obviously we've got top wingers in Martinelli and Saka on their day, but I would say Martinelli especially, there's times when, for all his positive, sometimes his decision making could potentially be a bit better. And I think for what they don't have, and not to compare them, but what maybe Trossard doesn't have in electricity in terms of like pace or just directness, I think his decision making in the final third is exemplary, to be honest. And I think he deserved the goal today with his play, but I think his assisting, just contributing to winning, and I think just showing that hunger to really kind of stamp his authority in our team and just make a difference is just amazing. I mean, the flick that he gave to Xhaka, I know he didn't score, but that was just like it's just top draw.
Xhaka deserves dropping for missing that.
Yeah, honestly. Like, why did he take a touch? It's sat open. He could have done anything.
With like the Wilshere kind of Norwich goal. The
100%.
Play was beautiful.
When I saw that was exactly the goal that I was thinking of, because it was just the touches. And I think Rosicky scored another one similar as well, where it's just all you needed was a finish. It didn't need a touch.
Sunderland, I think,
Yeah, I think so. But I think with Trossard, I think the good thing about Trossard as well is we're buying a player who's got Prem experience, is Prem ready, but has also never played at this level before. Like he understands that this is kind of like his not last chance, but this is a big chance for him to establish himself as a top player in the league. And I think that he's grabbing that with both hands, really. So, yeah, I can't speak highly enough about his performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a comment in the chat box from Zach who says we found our Diogo Jota. Obviously, he's more experienced. He's a bit older, but yeah, it's a good comparison in terms of versatility. Having someone that can play in those different positions on the fields. The man he fed for the first goal, Gabriel Umar, saw in the chat box. Onyx Lens says, "Why doesn't Gabriel have a song yet?" I was actually thinking that myself when I was in.
I think he does. I think he does now. After the Sporting game, I think the Arsenal fans created a song for him.
Well, give us a few chords then, mate. Go on.
My memory's not that good, TC, and I'm not good for karaoke.
I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up. But yeah, look, Gabriel has been a player that I think at the start of the season was in danger of becoming a bit of a scapegoat for Arsenal supporters. Because, and I remember writing a piece about kind of all about the idea of destroying the myth of Gabriel Magalhães being a liability, as our good friend Bailey once called him at the start of the season. But he, since the turn of this year in particular, after the World Cup, to be fair, has been, in my opinion, the best centre-back in the league. And in these moments from corners where we've, from a defensive point of view, been a bit more vulnerable from, he just continues to pop up, and be big in these moments. And he was there once again.
Yeah, physically, he's a monster, if we're honest. Like, when you look at this Arsenal team, TC, Ben White, Saliba, Thomas Partey, Gabriel, imagine facing all of those players when you're defending a set piece or a corner kick. You'd be frightened as a defender because they're physically imposing, they're strong, they don't mind getting stuck in for a header. But yeah, it's a good thing that we've started to score from corners again, because at the start of the season, we were putting the ball in the back of the net from corners. But then for a few months, I think we stagnated. But again, it was a brilliant corner from Trossard and a great header because he wants it more. But yeah, Gabriel, for me, I agree. I think in the last few months, he has been the standout defender in the league. I know a lot of people speak about William Saliba. I think they complement each other very well. I like the fact that Gabriel, he has that emotion to him, and I don't want him to change that, if I'm honest. I think that's what makes him such a good defender. There was a funny moment in the first few minutes. I think Andres Pereira took him out, and all Gabriel, he pointed his fingers to him and he said, "Don't worry, I'll get you back. Don't worry, I'll get you back." And he just kept pointing at him.
Yeah.
But that's what you want. And time again, if he does go through a bit of a bad spell, if he does go through a moment in the game where he does make a mistake, I like the fact that his head doesn't drop. He doesn't start pointing fingers at other players, aka Shkodran Mustafi, which he used to do in past years, which used to annoy me a lot. But he puts his head up and he says, "Okay, we'll go again." And he makes an impact. Like, he'll either score or he'll make a last-ditch challenge. But we've got two great centre-backs that allow Mikel Arteta to play the way that he wants. We suffocate teams, if we're honest. And I think that's the reason why this team is so good, because the fact that we have Gabriel and Saliba who push so high up the pitch against Bournemouth, they're basically playing on the halfway line, if we're brutally honest. But we can do that because they're so good, they're so comfortable in the way they perform defensively. But yeah, I think Gabriel needs to get in the plaudits he deserves. I've seen Team of the Year shouts with, to be fair, Gabriel not even in there. And I'm just thinking, like, what are these people watching? But yeah, kudos to him. And yeah, he's been fantastic for us this season.
Just to add to that as well, I think, and not in any way, shape, or form to dig him out, but if you looked at the performance of Kiwior in the week, I think what people underestimate about Gabriel is the role that he plays in the team is almost like he plays almost like 1.5 roles, in that the fact that Zinchenko has to come in and play centrally a lot of the time. There's a big gap that's normally always on that side. And I think Gabriel has to do a lot to cover that from a defensive standpoint and also just from a shape standpoint as well, either kind of moving a little bit further across when we go into a back three, or also kind of marshalling that side at times, especially when Zinchenko's caught out of position. And I just think that because he's made some high profile errors in like big games, for example, maybe like the City game, or he's got sent off and stuff in the past. I think that kind of clouds some people's judgment as to how good he's been. And I think if he can start to cut out that, just a couple of those errors, and it's a bit harsh because Saliba's made errors as well, but I think there's a bit of a timber. If he can cut some of those errors out, I think that he'll start to get the plaudits that he deserves. Because in our foundation, in our framework, he's one of the most important players in our team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, he's now the senior figure of the two centre-backs, whereas before, he wasn't. He was the guy that came in at 22 years of age and had to learn and had to adapt. And I think it's a great point you make about the 1.5 roles. And I think that's maybe why we saw Kiwior become a little bit exposed on Thursday, because he's used to not having to do that. His left back's going to be a lot closer to him, but Zinchenko left that space. And that's why, on this Thursday, I think we'll probably see Rob Holding come in and Gabriel start, and it will give Arsenal a little bit more of a solid foundation at the back. Zinchenko might still play. We'll have to wait and see. But I certainly think that Gabriel should be starting that game on Thursday, and that should help us with the issues that we had in Portugal. But there's probably others that are going to come into the team on Thursday, one of which, obviously, maybe still in that centre forward role. We'll have to wait and see. It depends on Gabriel Jesus, who we'll talk about in a bit. But he scored the second goal, Gabriel Martinelli. I can't speak highly of a guy that, again, was in danger, I think, a bit of going into that little bit of a period where fans were starting to question his form. He was starting to be a little bit underappreciated. He wasn't getting the goals or the assists. But now they've started to kind of roll. You know, he got 2 against Everton. He got 1 against Aston Villa, which was very fortunate, as we know. I say fortunate. You still got to be in the right place at the right time and receive the ball from Vieira, make that run and beat the defender to get there. But obviously, you would define it as a fairly simple open goal to score. But he's obviously got goals since then. And he gets another header, which is great, because I remember when he first joined and we was playing in the Europa League with him up top, he was scoring some of the best headers for a small guy that I've seen. And he's added that to his game. But I want to talk with you about kind of the movement. We've mentioned Trossard already, but the movement between him and Trossard and the understanding between those two has created so many more openings for that centre forward, whoever it is, but particularly Trossard and Martinelli to interchange and move. And that's really throwing off opponents, I think.
It reminds me of at the start of the season when Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli were doing the same sort of things on the pitch, and they had that movement and teams were struggling to find a solution to that. Obviously, when Eddie and Nketiah displaced Gabriel Jesus, when Jesus picked up that injury, we at times struggled. I think Martinelli struggled to have that same relationship with Nketiah that he had with Jesus. But I think since Trossard's come in, you're starting to see the same pattern evolve. Trossard, he reminds me of Jesus in terms of the fact that he doesn't stick to one position. There's a fluidity, I think, in terms of that front three. They're not sticking to one position, but they're always interchanging. And I think that causes defense so many problems, because they don't know when to man mark. They don't know when to go to one player, because they're always evolving. They always have that movement. And I think we speak about Mikel Arteta in terms of rotation, in terms of he maybe needs to sometimes take players out the firing line. And we need to give him credit, because you touched on it. Martinelli was struggling for a few weeks. And on social media, there was a lot of talk for him to get dropped, talk that he's struggling now in terms of making that impact that he had at the start of the season. And Arteta took him out of the firing line. I think it was for that Villa game. Obviously, brought him off the bench. But I think that's the best thing that's happened to Martinelli. He said it himself in an interview that, maybe he did need to get out of the firing line, and that maybe gave him a kick up the backside. And I think in the past few games, you've seen Martinelli re-emerge again. Crucial goal against Leicester City, away from home. Another goal away from home against Fulham. That goal against Aston Villa. But he's making impact now, and that's what you want. And you've touched on it. Trossard's, he's just a fabulous footballer. Like, when I watch him play, there's so many footballers I have comparisons to of past Arsenal players. Santi Cazorla, Andre Arshavin, Alexander Kleb. Like, there's so many, but he's a technician. And Mikel Arteta, I think in his post-match press conference, he made a very good point. He spoke about football intelligence, and Trossard has football intelligence. Like, he always has a picture in his head. I know what I'm going to do. And for me, the scary thing is we've not seen the best of him in terms of his finishing. I think he's one of the best finishers at the club, and we've not seen that yet. So right now, I think Mikel Arteta, Arsenal, are in a great position. We have players coming back from injury, and now we're in a position where we don't need to rush Gabriel Jesus back to full fitness. We've got a front line which is working, and there's 2 games left until the international break. You can slowly ease Gabriel Jesus back to full fitness. So it's a win-win right now.
Absolutely. He became our top scorer today, 12 goals. And another player that got into double digits today was this man, Mr. Ødegaard, getting on the score sheet once again, going into 10 goals in the Premier League for this season, Raf, which is, I think, something that a lot of Arsenal fans really wanted to challenge him to do last season, or at the end of last season, was to break that double digits, even when his output was very similar to that of Bernardo Silva of last season. I think, in fact, they scored the same amount of goals last season. And you looked at those two as kind of having similar kind of roles in their respective sides. I know Ødegaard now is kind of the main attacking creative focus, of course, in this team. But the fact that he is getting in those positions, I think he had something like, was it 13 shots against Bournemouth? Something similar.
I think it was 11.
A ridiculous number of shots. And I think that's the thing that we've been challenging him to do is shoot more. He's certainly taken that to heart because you can tell by the number of shots he had as well. But what do you make of now his threats and the way in which he still manages to kind of find these beautiful through incisive passes to the players around? He is just seemingly the glue of that attack, isn't he? That just links it all together.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think he's definitely a candidate for Player of the Year in the Premier League. I think, and I know me and you, I think when he was initially bought, I know obviously there was the big Maddison train, and we were both quite happy with the signing, to be honest, because I felt like it was a smart, logical signing. I felt like he was criticised a bit more than he should have been for his loan spell. If you remember, he was doing really well and then he got injured, and then he kind of took a little bit of a while to work his way back, but you could still see that he was a top player. And I think since then, he's grown and grown. And I think this season, he's just taken it to a completely new level. I think his goals, adding goals to his game just adds it's just a feather to his bow, because ultimately that's not what his forte is. His forte is his control, controlling the midfield, understanding space, understanding getting it on a half turn, understanding all the different nuances that are needed in the final third. And I think that now he's adding that little bit of confidence to take more shots and to take more responsibility, which I think that's probably the key more than anything. It's not even necessarily the confidence. I think it's just him taking on more responsibility within the team. He's added that, and then we're just seeing the fruits. I mean, 10 goals and we still got 11 games to go. And then you're still adding the assists and the chances that he's creating. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I think all he needed was goals to kind of really start to put him in conversations with like the very best midfielders in that position in the league. And I think that he's adding that. I think he's interlinking with Saka especially. But when you add Trossard to that, the combinations that they're playing, Xhaka, he's just a joy to watch at times. And I think that he's the responsibility that he's taken on, just from even down to just press conferences, or like just him speaking and the way he conducts himself. You can see that he's the mouthpiece for Mikel. You can see why he's been trusted to be the captain. And I just think that he's just going from strength to strength. He's 24. I mean, it's crazy to just think that at 24 he's kind of showing this composure, showing this kind of presence that he has on the pitch, and I think he's just going to continue to get better and better.
He continues to be my favourite player. I put him on the back of the greatest Arsenal shirt to ever be produced, which is this season's away kit that we won in today, of course. I'm so glad, by the way, that we're winning in that kit now, because there was a bit at the start of the season when we lost at Man United in that kit, and I was like, please don't let this. Do you remember it was like the dark navy kit with like the white, turquoise and gold bottom half diagonal stripe kit we had? It had 3 stripes at the bottom of it, and it was like gold, white, and turquoise. And we never won in that kit, like ever. It just didn't happen. So I was saying, I really hope this kit does not turn into that. And thankfully, we won at Brighton, we won at Villa, and now of course we've won at Fulham wearing this kit. So it's certainly something I think that's helping us. Maybe we should wear it at City when we go there, because obviously it didn't work wearing the home kit when we went. So maybe we need to switch it up. I feel as though we've in this show kind of building up to the headline act, and even though he was only on the pitch for a limited period of time, Umar, Gabriel Jesus returning. We scored 3 great goals today, and they all got big cheers from the Arsenal crowd. But the biggest cheer of the day, more than our goals, arguably, was Gabriel Jesus coming onto the fields. I loved the housery chant that away fans do to goalkeepers when they're going to take goal kicks. It's the same kind of thing, except the complete other end of the spectrum with the outcome of the chant when obviously he was building up to come onto the field. But he obviously came on, created a brilliant pass for Reece Nelson. I was baffled that Nelson didn't take that on his left foot, considering how he scored the last goal on his left foot. He should have smashed it with his left boot, but obviously still lacked a bit of composure and wanted to take it back on his right. And he could have scored as well. Fabio Vieira, who we really protected, I think, on Thursday night and talked about highly, even though a lot of people kind of downed him a bit after the Sporting game. Brilliant vision and pass from Vieira to Jesus to find him, and he should do better. And maybe if he's 5 games into his return, he might chip that over the keeper instead of kind of messing up his shot and hitting it straight at Leno. But what did you make of, and not only what did you make of Jesus' return, but A, are you surprised how quickly we've seen him, and B, what is that potential impact on this season?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I was surprised, to be honest. I was looking at that game against Crystal Palace next Sunday for an opportunity for him to return, potentially even Sporting Lisbon. But Mikel Arteta has said continually in his press conference in these past few days that he's spoken to Jesus. He's at the end of the day, the decision comes on Jesus. He knows his own body. He knows how fit he is and how healthy he is. And he apparently said to Arteta, yeah, I'm raring to go. I'm ready. And Arteta was a bit shocked by that. But I'm not surprised, if I'm honest. And it's a massive, massive boost. Like, I can't tell you how big of a boost it is because it's huge, if we're honest. Like, take away the fact that he's a fantastic footballer, what he offers this Arsenal team, I don't think anyone can offer it in terms of what he does on and off the ball. And you saw it in that 15-minute cameo he had. Like, he created 2 big opportunities and they're goal-scoring opportunities. Yeah, I thought Nelson, in my eyes, he should have gone for the shot. And then in another day, I think if Jesus has 5 games, 6 games under his locker, he probably puts that ball in the back of the net. But the thing is, right now, we're in a very good position, as I touched on before, because we're in a situation where we don't have to rush him in. We don't have to hurry him in because we've got players who are ready. However, we're going to have teams, Crystal Palace, wouldn't surprise me on Sunday if they come to the Emirates and sit back, play a low block and defend for their lives. And say in a scenario where it's 0-0, 70th minute, we've got that card in Jesus that can come and change the game. And I think for these final 10 to 11 games, it's a trump card, if we're perfectly honest, over Manchester City. When you look at our squads pre-match, you look at the lineup that we had, and you look at the bench, the squad depth that we have, I was like, wow, this squad is unreal. Like, Emile Smith-Rowe didn't even come on against Fulham this afternoon. And what he's done for Arsenal last season was fantastic. Jakub Kiwior, he wasn't even on the bench. So we have so many options. But yeah, Gabriel Jesus, fantastic player. And I think it gives a boost to the other players in and around the team. I saw the social media posts after on Instagram. They were all buzzing that he's back.
Holding taking the mick out of Fabio Vieira. Have you seen that?
No, I'm not seeing.
You know,
no.
He put on his Instagram story. Never seen a player trip themselves up and get a free kick. That's great. Yeah,
but yeah, the players. I think they love Jesus. Like, on social media, they're just saying, "Yeah, welcome back, our brother. Good to have our brother back in the team." And I think they realize that apart from his qualities, apart from what he offers this Arsenal team, he's a leader. He's won this Premier League title. He knows what's needed in this final stretch, this final 2 months. And I think that is as equally as crucial as having him on the pitch, because it's going to get to the nitty and gritty in these final 10 games, 11 games. And when you get to the last 5 games towards the end of April, May, you're going to be facing teams who are in a relegation battle, who are competing for European spots, and they want to be picking up points as well. So, say, for example, when you get to the 85th minute in a game, you need calmness. You need someone who you don't want to rush it in those moments, because it can be easy to hoof a ball and get nervous because you got a title to win. But I think Gabriel Jesus, Alexander Zinchenko, that's what you need. That's what you need in this dressing room. Winners, players who have done it. And I'm buzzing to see him back. But yeah, his cameo in the 15 minutes or so, I thought was very, very good, if I'm honest.
It's exciting. It's really exciting. Raf, I want to ask you about another player, but it'd be remiss of me not to give you the chance to talk about Jesus as well. So on his impact in the game and what you would expect from him, would you like to see him kind of start on Thursday to give him that chance, or do you think it's a case of still needing to ease him very much back into things?
I think it's weird. It's a weird one because I think, and Arteta does this quite a lot. You probably know better than I do, but it's kind of mixed messages in regards to how
I would say mixed messages
is
an understatement.
Yeah.
As a journalist, it is a bloody nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
What he's saying.
So because he said obviously, oh no, he's not ready, or he still felt a bit of discomfort. But then he also said, we respect the physios or respect the doctors, the time frame. So clearly he's gone through it time-wise, and it's probably was down to Jesus to say, all right, I'm ready to play now. Maybe he felt like, I just want to kind of get back to full speed. So if he is at that point where he's done everything, he's 100%, he feels fine, then yeah, you could play him, or you could put him on the bench on Thursday with a view that Palace, you could play him, either one. But I think that now we just need to start integrating him more and more. And but it's hard to say without knowing exactly where he is fitness-wise in terms of, is he 80% and we're easing him in, or is he 100% and he just needed to be out there and kind of feel that, all right, I'm fine. I took a kick and I was okay, if you get what I mean. So I would, if it was me, I'd probably play him off the bench. He'd be off the bench against Sporting with a view to starting at Palace, or at least playing significant time at Palace, knowing that we got an international break, more time to obviously train, more time to get back to match practice, with a view that Leeds is like, okay, that's where his season really starts, if that makes sense. So it's hard to say, but it depends. Who's the other player you were going to talk about?
I was going to ask you about who I thought, other than Trossard, was my man of the match, and that was Thomas Partey, who I thought was unbelievable. When you talk about world-class midfield performances and transformative figures in a team, and you have these pretenders of United supporters trying to claim Casemiro comes anywhere close to the influence that Thomas Partey has on this Arsenal team, he was brilliant. So wax lyrical, mate. For all I care.
See, and this is the thing, and this is a United thing. Well, through and through, Casemiro is the best DM. Martinez is better than Gabriel and Saliba. They got the best partnership in the league. Rashford's better than Saka. They're amazing. Why are you not top then? It's just why? If you've got all the best players, why are you not top? Why do you lose 7-0? The Martinez and Casemiro are both playing. He can't pass. And this is the thing. It annoys me because it makes you think Casemiro is a good player, and it makes you kind of then say, "Well, hang on a sec," and you just start cussing him or thinking every time he does something, you'll be like, Partey would never. But it's, to me, I just think, yeah, Casemiro's won a lot, great player, but Partey is just levels above. When you just look at his control in the midfield, his passing ability, his press resistance, then you look at his strength, the way that he covers the defense, the way that him being there allows us to push up, knowing that we've got a shield there that before he even gets to Saliba and Gabriel, and then you start to add some of the touches, some of the passing, some of the angles that he finds passing between the lines. It's just he's unreal. He's literally, to me, comfortably the best in that position in the league. But I think he won't get that. And this is the same with most Arsenal players at the moment. They're not going to get that till we win the league or till we start to play Champions League. But it's surprising with him because he came from pedigree. He's come from Atletico Madrid, playing at a top level. He's won things in the past, but it's still he's almost having to prove himself. But to me, there's no one that offers what he offers in the midfield in the league. And that's comfortably. Casemiro is a good player, but he can't pass. Gets sent off gets sent off or gets yellow cards all the time. I think it's underrated. And I think another thing to add to that as well is I do think that it's a bit of a travesty that we're not being spoken of highly enough about how we've avoided red cards, our disciplinary's improved. And Partey is a big part of that as well. Never really gets loads and insane amount of bookings. Like, he's just an unreal footballer. He's just an unreal footballer, and I just hope that we start to get the respect that we deserve, like once we win it, or and I just think that that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Umar, did you want to have a word on Partey?
That comment there, that's what I was going to say. Like, we've seen Patrick Vieira run the show in terms of Arsenal's midfield during the Invincible era and before that. And for me, Thomas Partey is the best since Patrick Vieira, if I'm honest. When you talk about complete midfielder, both defensively and also attackingly, people forget in terms of how good he is as a passer, progressive passing. And for me, this game against Fulham, like, if you're a young midfielder and you want to watch a performance this weekend, I think you look at Thomas Partey's performance against Fulham and you watch how he played that whole 90 minutes. I think he was in cruise control throughout the game. And the funny thing is, it seemed like he was playing in first gear. Like, honestly, and obviously he's not going to be playing in first gear, but he was in so much control throughout the game, defensively, going forwards, the long strides that he has when he tries to retrieve the ball, when Fulham are countering. I think he's a sensational footballer. And Raf made a perfect point. Like, unless we win the league, I hope we will win the league. I think we will win the league. These players, the likes of Bukayo Saka, Thomas Partey, Gabriel, they won't get their flowers until we win it. Because for me, I don't know what half of these opposing fans watch on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, but it's not football, if we're being completely honest. And for me, the fact is, if we keep Thomas Partey fit for the remainder of the season, for 10, 11 games, Arsenal will win the Premier League. Because for me, he's Arsenal's most important player. He gives me that sense of confidence. When he plays, I know we're going to be okay. And I've not felt that for a long time in terms of watching Arsenal midfielders in the past few years. But I know when he plays, we're going to be all right. When he was out against Manchester City, I was worried straight away. And the biggest thing is, if we keep him fit for the final 2 months, for the stretch of this title running, Arsenal will win the Premier League title.
Well, it's really, really key. I was speaking to him after the game in midweek against Everton. I think it was the Everton game. It might be one of the other games. But he was basically saying that, the fact that he has been able to transition to the Premier League, that's kind of been the big thing that's kept him out of games. He feels like the transition from La Liga to the EPL is what's caused these injuries that's had kind of crept up on him. And I think that whilst that's fair, I think there is obviously this, I think, a muscular issue that's just always reoccurred with him. And obviously we've seen him miss such big games. I mean, I think someone put a stat out when he missed the Man City game, like the games that he's missed in an Arsenal shirt, and it is really frustrating, to the point where people say we need to go out and sign somebody in the summer because he's become too unreliable. But the thing is, when he's here, he puts in those performances, and you're like, well, good luck for finding someone that's going to give you what Partey brings you, because he's just that. He is that world-class level of midfielder that Arsenal have cried out for so many years. And we identified him a long time ago, I think, but it was under Arteta and Edu and that we got this deal done. And you got to give him credit for making him kind of, with Gabriel during that summer of 2020, the starting point of this project of signings that we've built this squad toward. And it's absolutely critical that we got that midfielder in if we were ever going to mount any kind of challenge, not just on a title, but just on the top four. It was important that we got that midfielder in, and he's certainly given us that. And it's unsurprising that when he was out at the end of last season, we missed out on the top four. So we've got to keep our fingers crossed that we've got them available for the rest of this season. Let's go to the chat box then for the last just over 10 minutes of today's show. Raf Michael Donnelly says, does Saka need a rest? I've seen this kind of crop up a bit more recently because I feel he's been a little bit quieter. Do you think there's more to be said about that a lot happens on Arsenal's left and he's kind of left to do a lot more work on his own, and that creates too many obstacles for him? What do you make of it?
I think there's two schools of thought, and I understand why people think that he could do with a rest. Like, maybe it doesn't necessarily need to play in the midweek, but I just think, and a few people's mentioned this before, and Arteta always talks about this. It's like if we were playing Champions League, he'd have to play both games, and we would. No one says, Kane needs a rest, or no one when Messi and Ronaldo. And I'm not saying that he's at their level yet, but when they were, or Salah, for example, Liverpool rotate the other two sometimes, but Salah always plays, and I just think that Saka, if he's going to move into that, when we start to talk about him in that company, which I think he's moving to. Let's be honest. If you look at his position, he's definitely top 3 in the league. So if you're looking at him in that company, I think he's just going to have to start playing games. And I think the good thing about Saka, I don't even necessarily think he's been quiet in all those games. I think he's managing himself within games, and I think he understands that he doesn't necessarily have to be at full tilt to be effective in games at times. And, his robustness, I think he's played 68 games in a row now in the Premier League. So he's clearly robust enough. He could do a rest maybe, but I just think that he doesn't need, I think he is that player for us that I think he's just going to play through it. And I think that this season should be us gearing up towards how we're going to play in Champions League. We're clearly going to play Champions League football at a minimum now, and we're going to have to play all of these games. So our top players, the ones that kind of dictate our rhythm, are going to have to play the majority of these games. And I think Saka is definitely one of them. So I think he just needs to play, to be honest. And I think he plays through his form.
Yeah, I was just looking at his injury record. He's not had an injury, not really an injury. I'm touching wood. I'm touching wood.
Yeah. I was literally.
I was going to say that.
I think because of him as well. I think it's because he gets kicked a lot and he looks like he's injured during the game. You get that kind of sense that he's actually been injured, but he never is. Literally.
Yeah, he had that game obviously against Forest earlier this season, didn't he? Where he came off injured. He gets frustrated, I think, sometimes, like just the amount of kicking and the lack of protection that he gets. But yeah, sometimes it feels like it's a bit of a ticking time bomb with Saka, and all these kicks are eventually going to land in something horrible. But you see players like Zaha, Grealish, they get battered throughout their whole careers, and they just go. I mean, they'll probably pay for it in later life, and it'll be all right pain walking on their feet when they're 50, 60. But for the one time they're at their clubs, they're doing great service for their teams. But yeah, perhaps that's one of the reasons behind it. Let's scroll up and go to Jason. Says, who, Umar, is your favourite player of the season so far, and why? Doesn't have to be the best one, just your favourite one.
That's a tough question. That is a tough question. If I had to pick one, I'd say Bukayo Saka. If I had to pick one, I know it's difficult. I think Martin Ødegaard's been sensational, Thomas Partey, Saliba, Gabriel. But if I had to pick one, I'd say Bukayo Saka, because for me, in big moments, he's come up trumps. I think against Aston Villa, when we were 1-0 down, he gets that goal, that brilliant equaliser. And every single time I watch him play, I think he continues to improve. He continues to get better week in, week out. And when I look across this Arsenal team, I think we've not seen the best, if I'm honest, of Bukayo Saka. Like, he's 21 years of age, and he'll be playing Champions League football next season for Arsenal, for this club. And you'll see the real Bukayo Saka in Europe. And I think then people will start to realize in and around Europe, in and around the world, what a talent we have. But yeah, I think for the past few years, I think last season, even when we were going for Champions League football, I thought he was very good. But I think this season he's taken it up a notch in terms of output, assists, goals. But his overall game, like even today, I thought out of the front three, I thought he was probably not the best. He seemed a bit fatigued, but that's never a bad thing, if we're honest. Like, we have different options now in this team. And like, even though it wasn't his best performance, I still don't think it was bad, if I'm being completely honest. And we're now at a stage where the standards are high for Bukayo Saka. Even against Sporting Lisbon, I think Raf made a very good point. He now realizes that he doesn't need to give it 100% every single game. And even in that game against Sporting Lisbon, I don't think it was his best. But he still, when I looked at the statistics post-game after that game in Lisbon, the statistics were crazy in terms of how he performed. So I'd say Bukayo Saka, just because if I had to choose, but you could give it to anyone. And to be fair, you wouldn't be able to contest it if we're being brutally honest.
Fair enough. I did throw a poll into the chat box 12 minutes ago asking the question about would you start Gabriel Jesus against Sporting or ease him in? 21% have said they would start him. So the rest, 79%, have said so far that they would bench and ease him in. Bakary Lasagna says, would you have been able, it is a funny name, would you have been able to control yourself in the press box if Jesus had put that chance away? I was fairly controlled today. I mean, it was quite it was kind of a job done from Arsenal. It wasn't one that I was, it wasn't a Villa, it wasn't a Bournemouth situation. It was quite a, oh, this is going really well. And I tweeted saying this was just a very nice day. It was just a very good day. And it was basically with the situation at Fulham is, if you've ever been to Craven Cottage, it's a very old-fashioned style ground. Yeah. The press box is tiny, and we're in the overflow section of the press box, which is even smaller, and it's just one row. So it was me, Kaya, James Ollie was next to us. Behind us, sitting was Fabrizio Romano, was sitting in the row behind us. And then next to him was a load of Fulham fans, literally sat behind me with nothing between us. So if I'd have celebrated, I would have got a smack on the back of the head, I reckon. So I had to be very, very chill today. So yes, even if Jesus had put that chance away, I would have remained very calm. O'Malley says, can we talk about Ramsdale, Raf? His concentration is amazing. He faces no actions, but then when he's called upon, he's sharp. The only issue I have with him today was that chaotic giveaway. Solomon, he gave the ball to.
It was. No, I think it was Pereira.
Is it Pereira?
Yeah, Pereira put it over the
ball. To be honest, I think Ramsdale doesn't get enough credit. To be honest, again, is another one. I think. There was all this talk about Nick Pope and how good he is, and I'd never swap the two. I think Pope's a good keeper, but he can never play the way we play. He's a bit of a tree stump leg.
Should have got sent off today.
Like Mendy, yeah, exactly. And I think Ramsdale, his distribution is so it goes unnoticed because he's so good at it. I think when you see Turner, no disrespect, or some of the other keepers. You kind of appreciate how easy Ramsdale makes it look. Obviously, he has the odd rick in him, but I think in general he's been very good. And I think part of the amount of clean sheets that we've had this year, a lot of the times there's been games where we could have conceded more, or his save has been the reason what kept us in the game. Bournemouth springs to mind, Villa. Like those saves were as important as the goals that we scored. If we concede those goals, we're not in a position to get the last minute winner. And I think, there's not enough said about the job that Ramsdale's doing this season. I think he's taken a step up now, and he's definitely a top 5 keeper in the league now. And I think that we wasn't necessarily, although he was having a good season last year, we weren't necessarily saying that he was at that level now. And I think it's just that's his standard now.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point to bring up. I don't think because obviously Arsenal's so focused on the outfield brilliance of the team, whether it's the defensive might of Saliba and Gabriel, or the creativity of Ødegaard, or the ruthlessness of Martinelli and Trossard at times, we don't never focus enough, I feel, on what Ramsdale brings, And I do feel like we would concede more goals if it was Leno in goal or even Emi Martinez in goal. I know that Emi had a really good streak for us, but I just think what Ramsdale brings to the team he's just complete synergy with the rest of the group. He gets on with them perfectly. The chemistry's there. Of course, he's international teammates with a few of them now as well. And I think I love the fact that we've gone and got a keeper that's faced relegation battles. Like he has been under the most pressure you could be. For me, genuinely, winning a title is the toughest thing. But there are players that I think going through a relegation scrap it's a different type of pressure, but it's competitively as pressurizing as what a title race is in a very different end of the spectrum. And he's had to deal with that. And not only has he had to deal with that, it's a very different type of goalkeeping, because when you're playing for a team facing relegation, you're facing shot after shot after shot. And then when you're going and transitioning into a team like Arsenal, you can go half an hour without doing anything, and he's had to stay concentrated and stay on it. I tell you what, though, I felt sorry for his dad when watching it, when he gave that ball to Pereira. I reckon that Fez may have got a few rows up behind him when that happened, because, he would have been, Oh, pulling at his dad's heartstrings, I think, when that happens. We got time for one more. I love this. This isn't the question, but Marcus says, Mudryk, Trossard or Richarlison, who's been the best signing? I think we all know the answer to that one. We've got one about Ramsdale there. ML Reaction says, we've been here last year, and last year when top four is in our hands, we let it slip away. Do you guys have jitters or nerves of that happening this season? Omar, I'll start with you and then we'll go to Raf.
No, if I'm being completely honest. I think last season, was the best thing that could ever happen to this football club. And it's crazy to say that, but I think the timing of it, like the timing of us getting Champions League football last season, in an ideal world, we would have loved it. But I think last season, I think at times we were boys when we came to the nitty and gritty. But this season, we're men. And I know it's a different kind of pressure. You've got Manchester City on your coattails. The pressure of getting Champions League football is a different ball game to winning a first Premier League title since 2004. But I think when I look at this team, and I think Ramsdale, he mentioned it a few months ago, that gave them the kick up the backside. Like that pain, that disappointment, that feeling of upset, anguish. They don't want to feel that pain again. And that's why I'm very confident that will drive them to this Premier League title. And when you look at performances, you look at the self-belief in big moments. What I see with this Arsenal team, they today at Fulham, they can dominate a team. They can put them to the sword in 45 minutes. When it's adversity, games against Bournemouth, when you're 2-0 down, when the pressure is intensifying, they can show a different side to this team and they can come back and get a result. You've seen it against Aston Villa. So this team has different positives, different stuff in their armory that I think makes them a title-winning team. Yeah, as an Arsenal fan, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to have a few jitters. But I think last season's experience, I think is perfect for this Arsenal team. If we were talking a season where last season didn't happen and we were going for our first Premier League title with us having not any setbacks, I'd be like, yeah, maybe this could be a bit too much for this group of players. But I think this season, this team is more older, they're more wiser, they bounce back. And for that reason, I see these away tests on paper. A lot of people are saying, yeah, Newcastle away is going to be tough. Liverpool at Anfield is going to be tough. The Manchester City game is going to be tough. However, when we go away from home, I back this team to beat anyone. I know, honestly, I back this team to beat anyone because I think away from home, we're more street smart, calculated, composed. And yeah, on paper, it does seem like a daunting set of fixtures, but I'm looking forward to it. I think last season will have helped us massively. And yeah, bring it on because these last 10 games, it's going to be a hell of a ride. But I think come May, it's going to be a special ride that we've overcome.
Yeah. Raf, have fun following that, mate. But how are you feeling about not letting last year's kind of disappointment affect this season?
So I think obviously there's been it's twofold. I think the players have obviously learnt from last season and they use that, I think, to fuel them. I think it's also the addition of some experienced players that obviously know how to win, players that have been there before, not just Jesus and Zinchenko, but also Jorginho. Just that experience to kind of being in pressurized situations and just understanding how to manage things. You looked at Jorginho, who's coaching from the sidelines and things. So I don't necessarily think that we're going to. It's the jitters, and I think context is important as well. Obviously, we did throw some games away last year, but we got injuries at a bad time as well. I think if Partey and Tierney stay fit, I don't think we lose against Southampton and Brighton in those games. I just genuinely don't think that happens. So I think there's context to it. I think with this year, I don't think it will be a case of throwing it away. I just think that obviously the away games that Umar mentioned are going to be tough games. Like, our record at Anfield's terrible. Newcastle, are a tough. They're not the Newcastle that we've played in the last 10 years. This is a new Newcastle, so it's going to be a tough game. Man City away is obviously going to be a massive game. So it's just how we overcome them. Umar kind of alluded to it. The positives are, I think, away from home we're probably better than at home at the minute. I think definitely a bit more solid. I don't know if it's teams come out a little bit more and believe that they have to play their game away, or we have a mindset that because we're away, we have to start fast and kind of, we're a bit more focused. I'm not sure. But away from home, we have been good. So it's a challenge, but I think that it won't be that it won't be jitters. It just may be that, they're difficult games. And if we drop points and Man City go on a relentless run, then who knows? But I think that this team's shown that they're made of strong stuff. I think we're showing that we can find ways to win. And I think that's the most important thing. There's times when there's going to be clean sheets. There's times when we're going to have to come back from defeat. But we're just finding different ways to win. And that makes me a bit more confident in the run in that at least. It's not going to be jitters. It's just going to be, if you City are the better team or not. And I think, but I think we've got a very good chance. I think we're up for the challenge.
Yeah, I keep looking at the table, and I keep looking at the number of games played and the number of games we've got left, and it's just counting down. And I don't believe that City will go perfect until the end of the season either. I think that I think both of us are going to drop points. To expect the next 11 games to be, all wins, I think is unrealistic. But there's 33 points left to grab for Arsenal. And obviously, we've got to go to Anfield and St James's Park, and which, to be fair, I don't look at as necessarily St James's Park as the test I would have done, say, 3 months ago, because they have turned a little bit of a corner in the worst direction. And the City game, I don't go there fearing City at all. I go there excited, and I feel as though it feels like it's a game where people are placing everything and saying Arsenal have everything to lose in that game, and I don't look at it that way. I look at it as Arsenal go there with an opportunity. I look at Arsenal going there really could play, especially if we can go there with a buffer, so that if we do lose, we've still got a buffer and we're clear at the top of the table. So if we can maintain that 5-point gap, that'd be great, and that will, I think, require probably a result. Actually, it might not require a result against Liverpool, because it might mean that because City have that game that is postponed because of their FA Cup involvement.
When would that be? When would that be, that game in
So
hand?
What, in terms of playing City?
No, that game in hand. Obviously, City don't play this weekend.
I think it'll be a midweek game, towards the last 3 weeks of the season.
Okay.
They're going to have a random fixture. I'm just looking at the season now. I think it would be placed between their Leicester a home game and Brighton away game, because that's between the 16th and the 23rd of April. I think it would go there. If not, it would go between the 6th of May and the 13th of May, which is between Leeds at home and Everton away. So it's going to be preluding an away fixture, I think. So that's interesting. I've said this before. If we could go to the Etihad. We could go to Anfield, 11 points clear.
11, yeah.
Because City don't play because of their FA Cup thing. So we'll go 3 points ahead if, touch wood, we win our next couple of games. And then if Liverpool beat City the week before we play Liverpool, then you go in 11 points. It sounds
psychologically, I think that's important though. I think not many people are speaking about that. If we beat Palace, we got 8 points in front of them. And for me, I'd rather have the points on boards than games 100%. In hand. So psychologically, City are the ones who have to chase. And that causes pressure in itself. I think that game against Liverpool, which TC you've touched on, April 1st, I think that's a big game. And I'm happy the fact that Liverpool have lost to Bournemouth this weekend, because they have to go there and they have to get a result, because their Champions League ambitions are on the line. So, it's going to be a fascinating game.
They'd love to beat City. I know there's some fans out there, and who I'm talking about, the ones that post on social media that hate Arsenal. And we haven't got the best relationship with Liverpool at all. But They love to beat City. They need to beat City, and certainly it's going to be a very interesting game. They don't have the best record at the Etihad, it should be said, but we know that they're good enough to beat teams like Man United as well as they did the other day. And as you said there, they've got the motivation to try and beat them. Everything is up for grabs for Arsenal this season. It's a great opportunity that we've got. And as I think, Raf, as you pointed out, if we can keep Partey fit, we've got a great chance of achieving that. We're going to wrap things up there. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in the chat box. We've taken as many of your questions and I've highlighted as many of your comments as I could throughout the show. So I hope you've appreciated the impromptu episode tonight after what was a great day of supporting Arsenal Football Club. Do drop a like on the video and subscribe if you're new. Umar, thank you for your time, my friend. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Tell people they can find you.
I don't even know where they can find me. You can find me on the Arsenal Way and on Twitter. I forgot my at. You know that. I think TC. You can mention it.
Yeah, I mean, your at's annoying, is what your at is. I talk about this before. Who puts an underscore at the beginning of their at? Like, it's at underscore Umar C10. What's that about?
I don't know. I don't know.
Was Umar C10 taken? Is that what it
Probably,
was?
potentially.
So you thought, I'll annoy the world and put an underscore at the beginning of my Twitter handle.
I thought to myself, I have to annoy TC, so there it's there.
Yeah, that's clearly what it was. Right, thanks, mate. I will speak to you Tuesday on the Arsenal Way. Look forward to it. Randy called you Messi then, which I could do, but Raf, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate your time. Tell people they can find you.
It's at Messi Music, Ball on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. I think I'm on there as well. One of them.
Getting around.
But yeah. Getting around, mate. Yeah, that's what she said. No, I'm joking. But yeah, just anything. Yeah, anything. Yeah, any of them, Twitter, Instagram, hit me up.
Lovely stuff. Yeah, do make sure you go check out Umar and Raf stuff. It's always worth broadening your views on social media and stuff like that. And they're two fantastic follows. So make sure you go and give those the attention they deserve. You can find myself at Tom Cantamedia at the Gooner Talk TV. You can also get holds. I mean, Raf's not got a TGT cap on, but he does have a black cap on. And you can get hold of a TGT black cap with either of the red TGT logo or the grey one. All of the profits go to Cancer Macmillan Support and to the Arsenal Foundation. So do make sure you get yourself involved and get yourself a cap. We've already raised over £300 in the space of a couple of days, which is great. I'm expecting that to slow down because obviously we launched it and people have gone mad over them, which is great. But if you haven't already got one, make sure you do. It's available worldwide, not just the UK, as I said before. It is worldwide shipping now, which is great. So do make sure you get hold of them. If you're going to the Chicago event as well, I'm hoping to take some with me. Please don't make me take them back with me. I want to get rid of them. So, yeah, do grab some off me at the Chicago event as well. Very much looking forward to that. I will see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. to break down this game even further with some more solo info on that. And there is an interview with one of the Arsenal players from the game coming out on Football London at midday tomorrow as well on the reaction to today's victory against Fulham. So make sure you go and check that out at lunchtime. See you soon. Have a fantastic evening. And yeah, bask in the glory of Arsenal going 5 points clear once again. We'll see you soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.